did wrong before. Okay, now I'll get back to camera, assessing camera. Okay, it's picked it up. Now connect. Okay, so far so good. I've got to go back to team viewer as soon as it tells me that it's connected. One of the things is I can't look at my fucking monitor because there's a time lag. You'll make sure you're going to come up properly. Not okay. So that looks good. Put the glasses on. Holy jeez, you're looking scary. Okay, I'm going to lift that out. Okay, so I still have you on. Just making sure that I don't go losing you.
I wonder if I go like this.
It happens. Okay, now you froze.
I froze?
Okay, you're back on.
Yeah, I'm just going like this.
Okay, that looks pretty cool. Gives you that kind of ghosty look. So, okay, we're going to be going live. Good evening, I'm Andre Faust, and this evening we're going to be talking about the incidents that happened in Moncton on December 15th, where the fire chief from anonymous tip decided unanimously or on his own that these three buildings were condemned, and immediately he evicted 13 people from the condemned buildings. Now, this is all based on an anonymous tip. Again, maybe the buildings were in bad shape, maybe they were not. But the point is that they did throw 13 people out in freezing temperatures, sub-zero weather. So what was the greater evil there? There's important questions here. Is why wasn't there any other arrangements made before the eviction? The buildings, all two buildings right now are still standing. One has been torn down, but the buildings haven't collapsed on their own. So there were some times. Anyway, with me I have the notorious blogger Charles LeBlanc. He's out in the street. He knows what the buzz is. And Charles, what is your interpretation to what has transpired with the Moncton incident?
Good evening, Audrey. Just want to correct you on one thing. It's not the chief of the Moncton firemen, is the deputy chief. And unfortunately, his name is Charles LeBlanc, but no relation. It was sad. I just heard about this when I checked the Irving media online. And I seen the headline, 20 tenants forced out in the street with minus 20 Celsius. And it's pretty disturbing. But what really, really disturbed me is seeing the RCMP involved. And one RCMP had his hand either on a gun or a taser. So it was very disturbing.
Well, that would be, I mean, you had called me, or I don't know if you had called me or we were chatting, and you told me about it, and it was quite late at night, and I was, I was dumbfounded that, that they would do something like that. Again, there's the principle of reasonableness here and common sense. I mean, these buildings weren't going to fall just, right here and now, kaboom. I mean, I don't think that urgency was that. There was plenty of time to make arrangement for these individuals. One fellow is a 70-year-old gentlemen. As we'd say in French, pauvre comme job, meaning poor as hell. Out in the streets, and like what you said is, minus 20 degrees. I mean, essentially, they took these people from the frying pan and threw them into the fire. I mean,
Yeah, and Audrey, let's not forget their rumors and voters had no rights until 2006 when Bruce Fitch, then with the Bernard Lord government, introduced a bill to give rights to borders and rumors. There's about 20,000 rumors and voters in this province. And in the old days, the landlord could collect your rent and then evict you the next day. And the police will evict you, and you couldn't go to the rentment because you had no protection. So Sean Graham in May 2010 passed a law that rumors and voters are protected under the rentment. But that's another issue that I find disturbing, because if you have a complaint, you can't talk to the rentment. You got to talk to a casual worker at Service New Brunswick, just a kid, and explain what's going on. But that's another issue. But were these people giving the right to say, listen, you could go to the rentment? Did they pay rent? Were they? So there's so many unanswered questions in this case, and there's a lot of questions. But unfortunately, this is only news for 24 hours, and then tout fini.
but what does that say about us as a society when it comes to people in poverty? I mean, these people here. I mean, okay, if it'd be you and I, and they pull that, they'd pull that shit onto us, and where we got injured, we'd see a lawyer and we'd sue the friggin' shit out.
You can see a lawyer when you're poor.
Well, no. I said, you and I and others who know how the system works, right? I mean, in that particular situation, because there is an onus. I have you at my place, Charles, and we get into, a little disagreement, right? Like, we never get into disagreements, like, right. Yeah, and it's minus 40 degrees, and you've had maybe a little too much, and I throw you outside, and you happen to freeze to death. Well, your family can come back at me and sue the friggin' hell, even though it was my legal right.
Yeah, but Andre, let's not forget these people that's inside this rooming house. 3/4 of them don't have any family, and 3/4 of them don't have any friends, and they don't know what the system is. And what I'm very concerned is the deputy chief, Charles LeBlanc, was talking to the media, and he was smiling. And what I found disturbing, and I'm in Fredericton, I'm not in Moncton. If I was in Moncton, I would really ask some deep question. And one question is, we know what you just said about poverty. They don't want the less fortunate downtown. They don't want them to hang around the malls. So therefore, they don't want no rooming house downtown. So I want to know if this Charles LeBlanc, if he's enforcing make-up rules, like, okay, that window, that's no good. You have to put a $5,000 window because it's not fireproof and all that. So is he forcing the landlord with so many rules or laws or bylaws, whatever you call it, that they just abandon the home and say, freak that, I'm out of here?
Well, that's a very good point, to bring up. Are they using the regulations to, force landlords to upgrade when there's really no upgrades that are really needed? You were involved in an incident here in Fredericton with one of the rooming houses that the Fredericton City Council, as a whole, decided to, throw, what was it, 4 people out, and yet the building was above and beyond the building codes. And I don't know what was up city council's ass on that one there, why they evicted, it's all...
Tape. I think you have a copy of the tape, and what was very disturbing is seeing these people with mental illness in that rooming house, standing in front of Fredericton Mayor Michael Bryan Michael Bryan for 6-7 years, he spoke on behalf of the poor, the less fortunate, the housing, the less fortunate, even had tears in his eyes. But ever since he's been mayor, it's not the same Michael Bryan that we know. And to have these people with mental illness to make a presentation and cry and say, this has been my home for 12 years, and just ignore them and never even talk to them, never even offer if they need help to go in housing. I find it pretty disturbing, and I'm afraid to say that I believe Moncton is worse than Fredericton.
Well, in this particular situation, I mean, they defied common sense. They've actually put these people's lives in danger. And, I get, thinking of that poor old 70-year-old man. I mean, I've seen photographs of him, and he doesn't appear to be the epitome of health. I think he did find a place to stay. But the amount of stress, the psychological anguish.
He could have took a stroke.
Yes, but if he's a nobody, who gives a rat's ass, right? Because he's just a poor guy.
And what disturbs me, this is news today and forgotten in 24 hours. And what really disturbs me is now they're saying it was a drug house. It was a drug house. My question is this, ever since the unfortunate accident, the 3 RCMP that were shot dead 4 years ago, if it was a drug house, how come the SWAT team wasn't involved? There's no SWAT team there. They were just plain, police officers. So if it was a drug house, where was the SWAT team?
Well, yeah, again, those are, unofficial stories from the streets. But that happens, those kind of stories happen when information is withheld. People try to fill in the blank, and people try to make sense of what's going on. And, of course, this is what happens is that, theories start to develop. But I don't know how this Charles LeBlanc can go to bed at night and be at peace. I mean, like I say, these buildings there, I mean, there was no sign that they were going to collapse, that moment. Yes, that maybe they were in such a deplorable state, but, when the wind was blowing, the building wasn't shaking. There was plenty of time to find, alternative places for these people.
And let's not forget, these people suffer from mental illness or drug issues. And it's Christmas time. And right before Christmas and something like this happens. Personally, today I was busy, but I planned this week to confront Minister of Public Safety, Denis Landry, and ask them, who is this Charles LeBlanc and why maybe this Charles LeBlanc should be investigated, because I've been watching him. As a matter of fact, I believe what they call it, human. What's that group in Moncton?
Oh, I don't know.
There's a group, human. They're shelter. They're a group that trying to find human for. I forgot, but that's all right. These people fight. This group fights to have trying to locate the less fortunate in a rooming house or an apartment. And Deputy Chief Charles LeBlanc went in there and shut down their building because it wasn't up to code. So when Charles LeBlanc, the Deputy Chief, walks into a building to shut down an office that helps the poor, we have a problem.
Well, I was trying to find the name of that group, and I didn't, but I did come across a headline from CBC, and it goes, "Demolition pleases neighbor."
Oh, yeah.
You know, again, they're forgetting the human element in this here. My argument is that they could have taken that extra time to find suitable, housing. As one gentleman said that was evicted, he said, "Look," he said, "I've got $6 in my pocket," and he said, "Right now it's very, very difficult to find housing in Moncton." So there's the social implications behind all this. Public safety, I like public safety because you can use public safety to justify anything. If there's enough people who tells you that the methane gas from your farts are causing them,
Yeah.
a danger, well, that falls in the strict definition of public safety. So now they put, a sign on Service New Brunswick, no no farting permitted, or
Yeah.
$10,000 fine. you
Yeah,
know.
what I find very disturbing is the government always preaches to everybody. Poor people with mental illness will be treated equally in school, inclusion. But once these people with mental illness graduates, they're not treated equally. That's for damn sure.
Well, just on that, we're departing from the tenants issue, but since you brought it up, it makes sense. We'll take autism is a thing that's is on a spectrum. You have highly functional autistic people that used to be called the Aspergers.
Yeah, yeah,
and
exactly.
and then you have
The other front, the ADHD, that's the opposite.
yeah, that's called Charles LeBlanc.
But
but
that's another issue.
but
But the bottom line here is these people are intimidated by the justice system, intimidated by people knocking at their door. And if there would have been the only thing we've seen, the picture of, what's his name? I think it's Tom Bateman, the journalist from the Moncton Transcript. And that picture, it shows the Deputy Chief Charles LeBlanc and two RCMP officers. There's no caseworker present in that photo, and that's very, very disturbing.
Yeah, well, that's just an illusion that they create. The system, the government, Department of Social Services, that they're all come, and they all care and whatnot. But at the end of the day, they'd want these people dead because it's profits before people, money before people. If you get caught that, for whatever reason, loss of job, which is one of the common ones that people fall into poverty, they get into the situations like these people in these rooming houses. But anyway, I think we should wrap this up. If you have anything else to add to it, we'll bring this to a closer. I didn't look at my clock to try to do it within a half-hour time frame, so I don't know if we have exceeded it or not. So, any closing words?
No, we should just be all fortunate that nobody got killed, that nobody was shot, nobody was injured, and the government should really look at this issue, even though if these people have mental issues or they have drug problem. We're not talking. I truly understand. We're not talking about people. They're not saint here. They're not people that's in the choir every Sunday. But they are humans, and if we start to find flaws in rooming house, there's going to be a lot of people that's going to be on the streets.
So true, Charles. And it's a collective consciousness for poverty. We're all responsible for it one way or the other. Thank you very much for coming on board on this one here. I'll be looking to do a couple others with you. One that we've been talking about is the police state. And maybe you can give a teaser on the police state before we sign off.
No, all I'm going to say is, as I say on my videos, stay tuned.
Yes, he concludes with very few words. And with that, I thank all of those who have taken the time to listen. And I'm going to try to do this weekly. I will pick a specific time for this. If you find this this informative, pass it on to your friends. If not, you can inbox me and tell me a whole whack of nasty things. Anyway, till next time, this is Andre Faust, and our guest was Charles. So in conclusion, till next time, take care, my friends. Oh, you were well behaved. You're well behaved. Okay, stop streaming. Okay.